Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be doing a trailer breakdown of the new horror film Color Out of Space, which is based off a novella by famed sci-fi author H.P. Lovecraft. Um, Now, this is an interesting one. It's from the same people that did the movie Mandy, and also it stars Nicolas Cage, again, much like Mandy. Um, but this is again, this is a Lovecraft story. It's very trippy in the way that it kind of is. But we're gonna dive into this. It's a full 2 minute trailer. And we start off. We introduce kind of this family unit with Nick Cage as the father. Then you have the mother. You have an older teenage son. You have a daughter who is also a teenager, and then you have a younger son who looks to be around 8, 9 years old. Um, and they're moving into this, through some monologue we have over the scene by Nick Cage. They're moving into this, this place out in the woods, away from the city and stuff like that, to kind of start anew a little bit. Raise the kids outside suburbs, that kind of thing. Even though it looks like this is relatively remote. And then they go into this kind of interesting thing where the family obviously, like any other family, they have a dog. Bit of a bigger dog. I don't think it's not like a German Shepherd or something like that, but it's a big breed. Um, and they have this nice little scene there at the very beginning of the trailer where the youngest son is standing in this hallway upstairs, and he looks at the dog, and the dog just kind of standing there looking at him. And then you see this flash of like this purplish pink light in the background, and then as soon as that happens, then the dog turns into this like snarling beast, and then you have this like weird kind of cutaway there where the whole screen turns that purplish pink color. And you see like a superimposed image of the boy's mouth and stuff like that. Very creepy. I will say that about the imagery in this trailer. The stuff that does look good is kind of creepy. It's not very. They don't try to play it up. I mean, even though some of it is in hard lighting, it just seems creepy. It seems unsettling, and that also goes with the kind of that music that is going on in this trailer too. Kind of like that violin music almost a little bit. The plucking sound. But after that, then we go into this montage where we see a bunch of things involving this meteor that crash lands near their home, and a bunch. After as soon as that happens, apparently a bunch of weird shit happens. Again, that's kind of a major plot point that they give away in this, which I think that this trailer gives away maybe a little bit too much, and I will get to that at the very end of this. But this montage they go through, they start exploring all these strange things. They start seeing stuff. It looks like the older daughter is not indoctrinated, but somehow like linked with this meteorite in some sense, where she's kind of like a vessel or something like that. There's a shot of her actually near the end of the trailer where it shows she's covered in this like pinkish-looking goo, or it could just be the lighting in the area reflecting off her, and she's covered in something else. But and then she's talking to Nick Cage about the meteor and all that stuff. But these strange things start happening. We see that some hunters show what appears to be a sheriff or a ranger or something like that, like a mutilated animal. We see that Nick Cage is starting to hear things like there's weird things that are going on at their home. And the son is supposedly talking to a man who is down in their well, out in their backyard, and stuff like that. There's a scene where the older daughter is washing off like what looks like a bloody butcher knife with fresh blood on it, which is kind of unsettling, especially because it seems so nonchalant. And then you see a light come up, and the entire sink turns into blood and stuff like that. Again, it's very interesting to kind of see the visuals for this. Now, the other thing is, I will say that in some of the scenes, the light does look kind of goofy because it looks computer generated. It looks like CGI. And I think that takes away a bit from the scene. I think you should have just kept with the regular lighting and maybe a little bit of some overlay stuff with that in terms of the filming, and kept it like that as opposed to making the light what appears to be a living entity, at least in that sense, because it does look kind of goofy. It looks like a CGI effect. It's not very well done. And again, I don't assume this film had an extremely high budget, but it does look like it uses its budget effectively on screen. But it goes sort of through all these type of montages, and then you get some scenes with Tommy Chong of all people is in this movie for some weird reason. It's like some hippie that lives in the woods. He has like what looks like kind of like Native American face paint or something on in the little scene that they do show of him, and it appears that he's talking to Nick Cage about the light and like all the other stuff with it. They do show a kind of this interesting scene where Nick Cage is looking down at his arm, and he sees that his arm is what, at least what I believe to be. It looks like his arm is like severely burned. It has like some scar tissue and stuff on it. So I don't know if that's something that's a result of the light itself, or if that's something that maybe he has experienced before and he has these like scars from it. It could be one of the two, which I think would be interesting, kind of either way, depending on how they explain it. Like the light can actually burn you physically. In addition to driving you insane and doing all these other strange things, that it's some kind of a living entity. But the thing is that so after the end of this trailer, we have this little last little kind of scene where we see the older daughter like appear to have like the light take her or something like that. And that's really about it. But I think the problem with a movie like this, and it may not be simply because it's a Lovecraft story, and those tend to take left turns for people, especially people that are kind of used to stories ending in a certain way. But it seems like they give away again the whole plot with the trailer, and yeah, again, that's something that a lot of trailers are guilty of. It's not just a sin of this one. That's the cardinal sin of trailers, basically, is that they give away the almost the entire plot of the film in the trailer, and we really almost have the entire plot of the film where Nick Cage and his family move out to the woods, or move out to a rural area. A meteor crashes in their backyard. This meteor emits some kind of strange light that affects them all in these weird ways, which results in them, harming each other or doing various things. So again, it's a Lovecraft story, so it's kind of generally those usually don't end well for certain people, but or most people, but um, there's not really and I will say this about that though, even though this is kind of, that's why I said sort of an issue before, is that it's a cardinal sin of trailers, but this trailer, there's not too, I mean, the major story elements with a Lovecraft type of story, it's more about the environment and kind of the nuance of the story and all that kind of stuff. It's not so much about the complexity of the story, even though some of his stories are complex. Again, that's kind of why they're novellas. They're a little bit simpler than a long format thing. But that's kind of the thing with this trailer, is that it kind of shows you those plot points. But again, I feel like it's going to be more the environment of the film, the atmosphere of the film, that is going to be more entertaining, as opposed to necessarily the particular story elements and how cohesively it's written. Because I think this film kind of makes you feel like it wants you to be very disoriented and stuff like that. That's evident kind of with the scene at the beginning with the daughter and the sink full of blood. It's a little bit reminiscent of It in a sense, with the female character, the female member of the Losers, when she's a kid, how the blood bubble explodes in her sink. It reminds me a little bit of that, and kind of mixed with elements of The Shining, where you have that kind of that flashy, like the scene with the two twin girls, where it flashes away and then flashes back in like half a second, and then you see like there's all blood all over the hallway and the girls are dead and stuff, and then it switches right back to what it was before. But it reminds me a bit of kind of that type of a mix, where it's this thing that happens in a flash and it instantaneously changes something. But again, that's just my interpretation. I haven't read the short story, which, by the way, the short story is actually called Color Out of Space. It's not it's not something that came up for the movie. That's a literal translation from the novella. So that is a nice little touch that they kind of kept that the same. But I haven't read the story itself, so I don't know how the story ends and various things versus the this film version of it. Although you can probably tell that the film version is obviously been updated, since the original story was written in 1927 and took place, I believe, at the time it was written. So there's obviously going to be some changes, but I think as long as you keep the core plot elements the same and you keep the feeling of a Lovecraftian story the same, then you don't really have as much of a problem there. But I liked it. It got me a little bit interested. Like I said, I think it gave away maybe a little bit too much, but I don't think this is necessarily a bad trailer. And like I said, if you want to watch that trailer, I will link it below as usual. And I want to know what you think. Are you excited for this? Are you a Lovecraft fan? Are you excited that his works are kind of getting a little bit more adaptations these days in various forms of media? And are you excited for this particular story to be adapted, or could you care less? Put your thoughts in the comments. Again, I'd like to know what you're thinking. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?